Hi there, and welcome to the Okie Dokey's crochet tutorial for making your very own adorable octopus. I'm Haley, and I'm so excited to crochet with you today. In this video, we'll go step by step so you can follow along at your own pace. Before we dive in, here are the basic crochet skills or stitches you'll need for this project. Single crochet, double crochet, slip stitch, magic ring alternative, using safety eyes, embroidering a mouth, and stuffing your amigurumi. If you're new to any of these, don't worry. You can find quick tutorials for them right above this video on this page, or head to our crochet basics section on the tutorial page of our website. Take your time practicing before jumping in here. There's no rush. Let's take a look at everything included in your kit to make your octopus. If you're using the Okie Dokey's kit, here's what's included. Now a quick note before we get started. Don't hesitate to pause or rewind anytime. You've got this. Alright, let's get started. Grab your yarn and hook and we'll begin with the first step of the project, creating a magic ring alternative. To create your magic ring alternative, start by laying your yarn in your non-dominant hand. I like to wrap it around my first two fingers and then create an X over it, like that. Then you're going to hold your hook in your dominant hand, you're going to loop it underneath one of the stitches and pull the working yarn through. Then you're going to grab the working yarn one more time and pull it through that loop again. Pull the little string tight, and now you've created a slip knot as well as a chain one. So now we're going to chain one more time. So now we have chain two on our hook. Then going into the first chain of that hook, in that chain two, we're going to start by single crocheting 12. So we're going to insert our hook into the first chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, pull through. That creates the first single crochet. Now we're going to go 11 more times. Alright, when we're done with that, we're going to place our stitch marker on the first single crochet of the round. This one. Perfect. Now you should have your little magic ring alternative with the stitch marker in there. Alright, next round we are going to be single crocheting and then increasing 6 times. So we're going to start with a single crochet in the first stitch where that stitch marker went in. Oops. Single crochet. Now we're going to increase in the next one. And now we're going to repeat that single crochet increase combination, and we're going to repeat it 5 more times around. So single crochet, increase, All right. Perfect, and remember to move your stitch marker up to the first stitch of the round after every single round. That way you don't lose your place. All right, round number 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase, and that is going to be our combination that we're going to repeat 6 times around. So we'll start 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, increase. All right, 5 more times. Move the stitch marker up. Here's where we are. All right, round number 4, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, increase. All right, 5 more times. All right, move the stitch marker up. All right, so now for rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, we're going to be just going 30 single crochets around for each one of those rounds. Remember to move your stitch marker up after every single one. If you need to use more than one stitch marker to mark every row to remember how many you've done, you can do that as well. So we just finished round 1 of the 7, but it's also, we just finished round number 5 of the whole pattern. So round 6, we're going to go around again with 30 single crochets. If your hook ever slips out like that, just make sure that you reinsert it. If you need to pull the yarn out and redo that stitch entirely, you can as well. It happens. And make sure every single stitch you're making it through the front and the back loops. We are not going to be doing any front and back loops yet, so make sure you're going through both every single time. Move your stitch marker up. That is round number 2 complete of the 7, or round number 6 of the whole pattern. On to round number 7, again single crocheting around 30 times. Alright, move your stitch marker up, and round number 7 is complete. Round number 8, once again, single crocheting 30 stitches around. Round 8 is complete. Move the stitch marker up. Round number 9, 30 single crochets around. Round number 9 complete. Move the stitch marker up. And round number 10, we're going to single crochet 30 times around. Round number 10 complete. Move that stitch marker up. Alright, now we are on to our last round of 30 single crochets around, round number 11. All right, round number 11 complete. Move the stitch marker up. And if you ever lose track on where you are, I'm just gonna roll it out a little so I don't lose it. You just start from this middle ring right there, and you're gonna count the rows all the way up. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. And if you need a little more in-depth reminder of how to count rows, rounds, or stitches, feel free to refer back to our videos on those. But now we are on to round number 12. Now round number 12 is where we are going to start making all of his fun little tentacles. So that's a really fun round. To make his tentacles, you do need to know how to double crochet. So if you need to refer back to the video on double crocheting, you may want to head there now. I will do a brief little reminder on how to double crochet here, but let's get started making his fun little tentacles. As far as putting his eyes on, you can kind of choose where you want the eyes. They don't necessarily have to go on a specific round. As you can see on this guy, his eyes are kind of right here in the middle, leaving enough room that you can do a mouth below, but not too much room. We kind of just want them in the middle, so I'm going to put them kind of right here where my thumb is. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So his eyes are going to go right in between rounds 7 and 8. And if you need a reminder on how to use safety eyes, you can refer back to the video. We're just going to stick them in and stick that little backing on. One eye is on. And then as you can see on this octopus, his eyes, there are 4 stitches visible in between the eyes. However, there's also a stitch underneath each eye. So we're going to place them 6 stitches apart from where we place this guy, or 4 visible stitches. So we're going to count the visible stitches 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to place the eye there again so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. Grab the backing, put it on, and there you have his little eyes. Kind of helps give him a little personality, kind of helps you visualize the octopus. All right, let's start making these fun tentacles. All right, make sure your stitch marker is in. Our first step, we're just gonna single crochet 1 time just to get the round started. Now we are going to chain 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So once you have your chain of 15, make sure that it's straight like this. Perfect. Now we're going to work into the second chain from the hook. So we're going to skip this one that is right next to the hook, and we're going to move to the next stitch, and we're going to do a double crochet in every single chain. So to start our double crochet, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that second chain from hook, yarn over, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over again, and pull through those last 2 loops. And we're going to repeat that all the way down the chain. Make sure that you're working on the same side of the chain on every single double crochet, and that you're not twisting the chain. That way his tentacle lays flat and is not twisting, because we don't want it to twist. And you'll start to see the tentacle kind of curling up like this around your finger as you work. It's not going to stay straight out like that. You can kind of move it a little bit and manipulate it so it does stick out a little more if that makes it easier for you to keep working. Continue to double crochet all the way down. We're going to make sure we go into every single chain, especially as you near the end. Make sure you get in this very last chain before the single crochet, because we want to make sure that he gets as long tentacles as we can. Perfect. Now, when that's done, as you can see on this guy, right over here, his tentacle lays flat like this. It's not pinched at the top. So in order to get that pinched look, or that flat look, sorry, not the pinched look, we're gonna skip 2 stitches because those 2 stitches are the height of our double crochet. So we're gonna count 1, 2, and then in the 3rd stitch, we are going to single crochet. Perfect. Now, as you can see, we have this tentacle, and in order to get it to curl like these tentacles are curled, all you're gonna do is just physically take your fingers and roll it up. The nice thing about the double crochet is it's gonna stay and it's gonna hold that curl. And obviously, once we finish the body, it'll hold a little bit better because it'll have stuffing and everything in it. So we're just gonna do that. But now you have a tentacle that is attached. And yes, you can kind of see a little bit through right now. You should have a little hole right here where you attached, or where you skipped stitches to attach the tentacle. We are going to fix that at the end. Do not worry, you will not have a hole in your octopus. So now we're going to move on, and we are going to repeat that same step 8 times around. Now, in order to get his tentacles spaced out the same way that they are here, as you can see, there's a little gap in between every single tentacle. So we are just going to single crochet 1. And then you're going to chain your 15, double crochet, and skip 2, and then attach it again with the single crochet. Alright, so chain 15, double crochet in every chain. Remember to skip 2 stitches and then single crochet to attach the leg to the body. Single crochet again before starting the next leg. And that's going to give you that gap in between his legs, just like in this guy. Now just a little side note, just in case you guys are wondering, when you're double crocheting these tentacles, there are going to be little tiny holes in between like each of the double crochets in his legs. That is completely normal. Do not worry that you're doing something wrong. There are supposed to be little tiny holes in between each double crochet. You won't be able to see it. Obviously, as you can see in this final octopus, like you wouldn't even know there's holes, but it definitely helps with his tentacles curling, but that is completely normal. Do not worry if yours has holes in those areas. And if it helps while you're videoing, if you need to kind of squish his little body down, fold him in half, you totally can do that as well. He'll pop right back up and be just your cute little octopus. Alright, and since there's not really a right or a wrong place to put the eyes on this project, because there's not really a front or back, yours may look a little bit different from mine as you're going and where the placement of the tentacles are, so don't stress too much if your tentacles and your eyes are in a little bit different placement. It just depends on where you put your eyes, but it really doesn't matter where you put your eyes. So just kind of wherever you feel like doing it, and then it'll go from there. And kind of obvious, but I will say it anyways, you are going to make sure that you have 8 tentacles on him when you're done. So if you are getting through and you realize that you're not going to have enough room for the rest of his tentacles, make sure you go back and count. If you're so far around and you realize like that you don't have enough stitches left for the tentacles, you can always just squish the last 2 together, or you can redo the whole thing, but it is going to take a second to redo it because you have to redo each and every tentacle. So it's kind of up to you, but for our specific pattern, his last 2 tentacles do tend to butt up right next to each other sometimes. I've noticed when I create him, so. But otherwise you should be fine. You should have enough space around him that there's a gap in between each tentacle. So if you need to go back and undo any of them to make sure you get the right amount of spacing, you can. If you don't want to do that, you can easily just skip that single crochet in between the tentacles and just start chaining from the single crochet that you attached the tentacle with, to save some space. So either way works, just up to how you want your octopus to look. All right. Once you have finished all 8 tentacles, you should have them all just around like this. I'm going to pull that out so I can take the hook out for a second. All 8 of these tentacles. Perfect. And yes, they look really ugly right now because we haven't taken the time to curl them, and also because he's not stuffed, so he has absolutely no structure right now. But don't worry, he'll look like this in the end. Alright, for this part I am going to take my stitch marker out just because I find it makes it a little more difficult to do this part with the stitch marker in. If you feel like you need it, totally feel free to use it. But for this step in particular, it's pretty easy to see where you started the round, so don't worry too much about losing it. But basically this round we're going to be single crocheting all the way around still. But we are going to be attaching the tentacles from, like I said, how we're going to fill that little hole in. This is where we're going to be doing that stitch. Alright, so like I said, we are just going to be single crocheting around, so no special stitches or anything right now. But when you are doing this, make sure that you line the tentacles up. You can't really see it super well, but it should be pretty thick right there. And you're going to insert your hook into part of the double crochet and into the empty single crochet below it. And then you're just going to single crochet like normal. And then you're going to do it twice, obviously, because there were 2 empty single crochets. And then make sure you single crochet into those stitches in between the tentacles as well, just so that we make sure we are getting all of the stitches in. We're making sure that we are still sticking at that 30. If you accidentally skip a stitch though, it is not that big of a deal. You can either go back and redo it, or you can just let it be. Either way. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get it into the single part of the double crochet, so just keep trying your best. It'll work eventually. And as you can see, you'll start seeing the single crochets sitting on top of this. You'll start there will be a difference in the 2 sides. So that's how you can kind of see where you started. That's why I don't really find it easy to use a stitch marker, especially because where you're attaching it, sometimes it just gets in the way. So, but it's totally up to you. Totally feel free to use a stitch marker if you need to. right, now we're back all the way around. Now the hard part is all done. All we have to do now is close them up. So for this round, we are going to be doing 2 single crochets and then a decrease stitch, and we're going to repeat that 6 times all the way around. So I'm going to insert my stitch marker back in to that first single crochet that we made on his leg, or after, for this round. So we're going to insert it there. And we're just going to start 1, 2, and then for this octopus specifically, we're going to be doing the invisible decrease. So we're going to insert our hook into the front loop of the next stitch, and then right into the front loop of another stitch. Yarn over and pull through both of those front loops. Oops. Slid off my hook. Oh my, okay. Yarn over, pull through to finish. 1, 2, invisible decrease. If you find the invisible decrease too difficult for you, you can totally do a normal decrease as well. Either works. As long as we are decreasing stitches, that's what matters. Because in reality, this is on his bottom. You won't really see it. One, 2, and his final decrease for this round. Perfect. Move your stitch marker up. Alright, and we are at the fun part that gives him his structure. Stuffing. So obviously just shove that stuffing into the octopus. And you'll start to see some structure going on. Kind of break it apart into some smaller pieces if you need to kind of get it in there a little more evenly and easier. That definitely helps. Make sure you're filling out all of it. Left. All right. Perfect. Now our octopus friend is stuffed. Let's finish him up. All right. For this next round, we are just going to single crochet and then decrease. Again, invisible decrease, unless you would like to use a regular decrease. Either way works. Single crochet, invisible decrease. Oops. Oh, I almost forgot how to do an invisible decrease. Sometimes it's hard to work with the stuffing inside of him, just because now you're not able to kind of squish anything down. So just do your best. If you need to put him in your lap, kind of hold him in there, definitely do it. All right. Move the stitch marker up. And last step of Mr. Octopus is 6 decreases around. So for this one, I am going to use just a regular decrease because it gets kind of hard to do an invisible decrease here, just because. So I'm just going to do a regular decrease. Again, if you need to go back and watch our tutorial videos on how to do a regular decrease, you can do that. But we're just going to do 6 decreases. All right. Make sure you take that stitch marker out. And then we're going to slip stitch. Pull some yarn through. Cut the working yarn. Pull it all the way through. Tighten that slip stitch. And now you should still be left with a teeny little hole in the bottom of it. We're going to thread our yarn needle. Maybe. And I like to just tie a little knot so I don't have to worry about the yarn coming undone. Perfect. Now we're going to insert the yarn needle into the front loop of the 6 decreased stitches, and we're just going to pull it through. No, nothing special. You're just going to insert into the front loop, pull through, make sure you don't catch the little tentacles in there. Alright, and then you'll start to see that it starts to kind of close up the hole a little bit. And then as you start getting through, if you pull on that little one, on the string, it does close up the hole all the way. But just make sure you still get into every single stitch. Oops. To close them off. Perfect. That hole is now completely closed. And I'm going to just take my needle, and I like to just stick it back into the center, and we're going to just pull it out at some random spot in the body. Pull it tight, but not too tight. Cut the yarn off. And now your octopus body is completely finished. Kind of roll up those little tentacles so that they start to resemble an octopus body. Alright. Now all we have to do is embroider his smile. And obviously the more you like play with the tentacles, the better they'll stay. So there you are. Alright, our last step for this cute little octopus is going to be embroidering the mouth on. So we're just going to tie our black yarn onto the yarn needle. And then to start the smile, I like to go in through the bottom just to kind of help hide everything. So we're just going to stick our yarn needle in through the bottom, pull it up, and where I'm going to come out kind of right underneath his eye, like that. As you can see in this one, the smile is kind of in the center in both of his eyes. So we're going to pull it out right there, pull it through, and then I just leave a little tail just to make sure that I don't pull too hard and pull the smile out. But you should still have plenty of yarn. And then we're going to count over, I'm going to count over so that there are 4 visible stitches, and then go in again. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go in. And then you're going to come out in the middle right there. So it's kind of going to look like that. It's kind of crazy, but you're going to basically come out 1 row down and 2 stitches over. Make sure that it's coming, that the loop is coming out on top of the working string. Pull it tight. Now you can kind of choose a couple options for the smile. You can leave it like this, so it's kind of a little more of like a straight line. You can move it, but what we're gonna do is from there, stick your needle up underneath the yarn, and then we're gonna pull it down, and that's gonna kind of help create a little bit of a smile on him, like so. And then we're just gonna go right back in and out in the bottom, like that. So now you have a little smile on your octopus. And then to finish it off, I am gonna actually take these 2 and tie a knot and pull it pretty tight, and it'll be hidden in the purple yarn. So tie a little knot, and then I gotta cut it so that the needle is off. Take your hook. We're gonna come up, and then we're just gonna pull these little ends, tuck them into the center. We're gonna grab the knot, kind of pull it through, hide it a little bit, and again, it's on the bottom, so if it doesn't get hidden perfectly, then it'll be okay. But you don't have to tie a knot. I just like to. It just kind of helps keep it secure. But again, if you don't want it, if it's gonna bug you that it's there, just cut it out. It's really easy to cut out. But make sure you're using some really precise scissors so that you don't accidentally cut your octopus. And you just cut the knot. So now there is no knot. And then we're just gonna tuck those yarn ends in. You don't want to cut them too short because you don't want the smile to come out. So pull them through, get all the little fuzzies off. Perfect. Now you have no knot, but you still have a cute smile on your octopus. The octopus smile will kind of be hidden by the tentacles a little bit, depending on where your tentacles are sitting. As you can see, I kind of have one right in the middle of his smile, so it's kind of hard. But you can sew it up higher if you'd like to be a little higher. But yeah, there are your octopuses, and again, tentacles will kind of keep their shape after a little bit, like this one. So there you are. You've got a couple cute octopuses. And don't forget to post your finished products and tag Okey Dokey's Crochet in there so that we can see all of your beautiful projects.